So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday call. We call them Creator Convos. I'm Noelle Marshall, and I'm here with my beloved light partner, Bob Warner.
Hi, everyone.
And I also want to acknowledge Karen Trujillo Heffernan, who puts together the logistics, and she also hosts a lot of these calls. In fact, she's going to be our guest next week.
Yay.
So before we start, I'm going to give you just a little intro. If some of you are not familiar with the Co-Creators Convergence, I'm just going to show a 1-minute video that will tell you a little bit about us. So welcome everyone. Again, I'm Noelle Marshall, and today is April 22nd, 2021, and Earth Day. So happy Earth Day, and we are so blessed to have with us a dynamic duo, Ron and Victoria Friedman. And their topic tonight is Give the Earth Back to the Arms of Love. And I'm so excited about what they have planned for us tonight. So, and Victoria, I'm my dear friend Victoria, who I met through Barbara Marks Hubbard, and she has enriched both of our lives. And I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm looking forward to another wonderful co-creation with you and Ron. So Victoria, over to you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, so Earth Day, when Noelle told me that when we asked when we were going to be doing our presentation, and she said it was on Earth Day, I was very excited because right away, of course, I remembered the wonderful statement that Ellen has in a very beautiful picture about the fact that the prime reason for our appearance on this earth here is to give the earth back to the arms of love. So I think when you hear that, you can tell what we're going to be hearing. We give the earth back to the arms of love. How beautiful is that? So we're going to go through a lot of things today. So I ask you to be patient and just move with us. And first, I'm going to give you just a very quick intro to Dr. Mills, Dr. Kenneth G. Mills, okay? And then we will continue with seeing a video, a clip of him speaking. So Kenneth George Mills was trained for 25 years as a concert pianist. And there was a major turning point in his life. He was ready to go on a world tour. And suddenly, at the same time period, two people gave him a message that just touched him very deeply. And the message was, you must learn to speak the word again. You must learn to speak the word again. So if you can imagine, he canceled that entire trip that he had planned and practiced for so long, and he waited. And then he began to speak. And that was the beginning of what we are calling, what is a spontaneous unfoldment, because he began to speak and he continued speaking for many, many, many years. And many thousands and thousands of hours of spontaneous unfoldments that lasted about an hour or 2 hours. And these unfoldments would be in poetry form, in prose form, and they all centered around the message of identity and our true nature. And then following, of course, these gifts that he had in terms of music, he also founded the StarScape Singers. Now, the StarScape Singers were a group, an a cappella, internationally acclaimed choral ensemble. And they performed at Carnegie Hall, they performed at Lincoln Center, They performed toured all the concert halls of Europe. And the amazing thing about it is that the compositions were very often mostly from his unfoldments. So these singers were singing metaphysical truth in all these places. So you can see it's quite a legacy. And I used to tell people about Kenneth Mills, but when they met him, they said that I underrated it. They never said I exaggerated, because there was no way of explaining that whole happening. So having said that, I want to say just something about my first lesson, one of my first lessons with the Unfoldment and Kenneth Mills. When Ron and I first came there, we came from a very strong teaching from 12 years with that Gurdjieff group and Rudolf Steiner. And there was a lot of work on oneself, a lot of meditation, an incredible experience, definitely, but one that left us quite dry, I would say. And then we came to the Unfoldments, and there I was sitting at one unfoldment after another saying, this is just like what I read in Gurdjieff. This is just like what I read in Uspensky. This is just like what I read in the Rosicrucians. This is what I read in the Buddhist sayings. And I kept saying that. And one day, Dr. Mills looked at me and he said, I'm so glad that you find so much familiar, dear. So I thought something is wrong. So I stopped. I stopped going, this is like. And by the way, I know all of you know it. If you tell them anybody anything, we tell them about the Vistar Method, they go, oh, that's just like the Quaker meeting, but that's sort of like the David Bohm dialogues. Everything is always, this is like. The mind is in comparative and judgment and always trying to corroborate what it already knows. And when I stopped that and I attended Unfoldments, I can't tell you when it happened, but something happened to me. Something was gifted to me that completely changed my orientation to who I thought I was, changed the direction of my life, changed how I would view society. It was just remarkable. And it has never left, constantly unfolding, constantly moving. So I wanted to say, if we could all kind of put aside this is like, or even hear something that we've heard before and keep that open mind, that would be great. Thank you. So we're going to listen to a video of Dr. Mills from an unfoldment. And Dr. Mills always asked people to do an invocation. There were many invocations that were beginnings and beautiful statements before an unfoldment. So I'd like to read one for all of us now. And this was from November 18th, 1976. I am here to evidence the support in the attitudes of attentiveness, vitality, and enthusiasm of this work called Unfoldment, on behalf of all those who would know self-realization and experience now. May my presence bless all those gathered here in the name of the one altogether lovely, so that the whole world may be given back to the arms of love, and all the inhabitants thereof clad in the panoply of transcendent worth, might, and grace.
Your greatest success depends totally upon the releasement of those encountered in your program from the belief system that surrounds false identity. You will find in the tomorrows, everything is going to revolve around one very important word for the next 20 years, if not for the next millennium: identity. That is why the key, identity, has come at this time, because it will be like one of the unnumbered books that rests on the ledge of the next shift. Because remember, the world is thinking in terms of shifting into a new experience. But the greatest sadness is that it is expecting incorrectly. It isn't going to be a 9-month situation. It isn't going to be a 1,000-year situation. In fact, it has nothing to do with time. This is why, if this shift doesn't happen correctly, you are going to see such upset, because the prophecies are all going to be wrong. People have been prophesying for years these different shifts, but you see, they don't realize that the shift is not in the object. The shift is a modulation within. From the standpoint of matter to the standpoint of tonal being.
From the standpoint of tonal being. So I'd like to bring Ron on. Ron, if you could unmute yourself and come in here. And let's just take a look a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the message.
The message. The message revolves around questions that we hold so deep within us, perhaps in our soul, perhaps even deeper. And for most people, or many people, or perhaps some people, it occurs in the form of being initiated by a crisis, by joy, by extraordinary creativity, or by a spiritual happening, which brings these questions to the surface. And some begin to look. They hold these questions. They don't try to answer them prematurely. They hold it. And then something which has been traditionally called a seeker emerges. And by the way, the source of the seeker, where it comes from, it didn't come from our parents. It didn't come from society. It didn't come from the television. This seeker begins to look for answers which sometimes are very poorly formulated and may not be formulated, as it was in my case. For me, I don't remember how or when I was attracted to settings, to atmospheres, like the tea ceremony, like reading the Tao. There was something there which I couldn't have verbalized, which drew me and kept me going through one teaching, then another. In the Gurdjieff work, they call this activation of the seeker, the activation of a magnetic center, of something within you that will draw you to a place where the answers can be found. And after these two teachings, which did not answer this very deep question, this very deep need to know, what am I? What am I doing here? What is this all about? After 2 teachings, I met Dr. Mills. And can you imagine the wonder, the shock, the mystery of having in front of you the answer and the clearest formulation of the question that you never came up with yourself, right in front of you. So that is coming in contact with the message. Victoria.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. And I really want to hear now from Ellen Mann. Ellen, if you could unmute yourself. So Ellen Mann is a very, very dear friend of ours, of Ron and mine. And she is really a living treasure. That's what I call her, a living treasure of a legacy of Dr. Kenneth G. Mills. And Ellen was a singer before she joined the Unfoldments. She was a singer that Free Design, they actually were a very, very popular and quite successful group that still has music playing to this time. And so when Ellen met Kenneth Mills and the music was a big part of it, she became a StarScape singer. She was one of the original singers that toured Europe. And then she started working with helping out to orchestrate and all the kind of organizational things that were needed. And I would say she was like a right-hand support to Dr. Mills. And also all the books and publications, she's had a big, and the website, big input into that. So she is a living treasure. And anybody that can hear her voice and what she has to say is very lucky. And I'm very lucky to have her as a friend. Ellen?
Well, thank you very much. I feel very, very fortunate as well to have you and Ron as friends and to meet everyone here today that I have not met before. And I'm absolutely delighted to be able to share live with people what is the most important and beloved aspect of my life, and that's Dr. Mills and his work. And thankfully, we have the video and the audio of his lectures and of course the StarScape Singers. And it's just I was distracted because my cat was meowing at the door. Sorry. I'll come back. Here I am. And so to begin with, the message, I think Dr. Mills gave a clue about the whole idea of identity, and that message for me came through a very, very powerful sound experience. And that was with, of course, StarScape and with his voice. And one of the things that he told us as singers and actually showed us was how to open our voices and share, I would say, the sound of his unfoldment, his transcendent message. And therefore, we were a megaphone. I feel we were a megaphone in a most delightful way. And so, again, this message to me, if I were to boil it down to maybe one word, it would be, or 2 words, wonder and love. And that would be the greatest transforming energy you could have on the planet right now. And I'm very grateful that we are able to share that one with another, and in all the various ways with Bob and Noel and everyone here. So I could talk about a billion experiences with Dr. Mills. I'm a lot better if somebody asked me a specific question, but I hope I gave you a little bit of a feeling for what it means to me, and it continues to have that same harmony and melody always in my head and in my everyday life.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Ellen and I have wonderful discussions and phone calls talking about some of the principles that we learned, all the things that we learned and experienced in the teachings in the environment of Kenneth Mills. And also for Ron and I, just to say the message in terms of having come from a very processive, what I mean is a teaching like a Goji teaching, there's a lot of process. You have to do this and you have to do this, and it takes 15 years and it's very hard, and you have to work very hard on yourself. And even then, there's no guarantee of any success. And so to come to someone who says that I and my Father are one now and not shall be, and self-realization and experience now, I always call it, we had like psychic whiplash. You know, it was so freeing. I wouldn't say it was freeing. It was just like, it's like if you've done all that and it was all good work, you know, it's wonderful. But just to hear that there is something that is unchanging and that is always present, has always been and will always be, and it is not affected by our outward situations. It's really a gift of a lifetime. So what we'd like to do now is we'd like to show you a statement from Dr. Mills on an image, and we'd like to take 2 minutes and have you just really enter that statement. We do something called readitation in Vistar, which means that you read something, but you read it like you're listening to music, Ron always says. You read it gently, and you look at the different words, and you let it permeate your being. It's like, you know, when we eat food, that energy just that turns into energy. Well, when we take in some of these glorious ideas, it goes into us and it changes. It goes to where it needs to go. So I'll put one of those on and we'll just look at that for 2 minutes, and then we can open up the field for about 10 minutes, have some response. Okay, thank you. So let's consider that statement a little bit, or anything else you'd like to share. And let's see if we can get some responses, or just whatever you'd like to share would be great. Just try to keep your statements under 2 minutes, because give people a little bit of a chance to say that. And if you're ready to share, just raise your hand and I'll call on you and unmute yourself. Okay?
Well, as I'm looking at that image and the words underneath that image, it makes me think, and I'm going to hear into comparisons, Victoria, but it makes me think of other words written by other people throughout history, such as Ram Dass's "Be Here Now," or T.S. Eliot uses the words "the still point," I think it's in the wasteland or the four quartets. I'm not sure. At some point in your presentation, there was a comment about it's timeless. Yes, it's timeless. It's timeless and spaceless, which is why you can't conceptualize it. I'm done.
Okay,
So this is Bob. And what the image brought for me and the words was curiosity and wonder, and how amazingly bigger than big, undreamed potential and undreamed, what's the other word? Universality, how big that is. And then it's beyond that big as well. And so it just brings me a sense of wonder and curiosity.
well, thank you, Bob. An awareness program. Have anyone thought of themselves as an awareness program?
Victoria, I just want to say it just felt like an explosion from my heart, that no upper limits, no constraints, no, just being part of everything. It's such a wonderful invitation. And I'm all for that. It just feels so expansive, so beautiful and so expansive that it's just like a heart explosion. So
Exactly.
I see Karen has her hand up.
Yeah,
Karen,
I want to add that, I mean, just truth is the very first thing that really actually just, it's more of a resonance in my body that I experienced upon that image coming up on the screen. And awareness programs, funny, Victoria, you just said exactly what I was thinking in my brain. Like, I've never thought of myself in that framework, awareness program. And it's powerful. It's really powerful.
yes. Interesting to walk around and say, I am an awareness program. See what happens.
Gregory would like to jump in.
Gregory.
Oh, jumping in. Yeah. Wow, awareness program and the gifts from within, if we redirect our attention to not just always the outside experience, but also turning inward. And there's sort of octaves of awareness, so resonant of some sort of a program, but turning our awareness to the unchanging, appearing as feeling, is where those undreamed possibilities seem to emanate and occur. It's just, it's a wonder. So thank you everybody for sharing so far.
Okay, can we have one more?
Mason.
Okay, Kathy Mason, but let me just, Linda Lamp from Alaska says, many people use the term divinity in form. So she just wanted to add that to the conversation. And Kathy?
Yes, I'm a big fan of Kenneth G. Mills. And what I wanted to share is that this conversation, I don't know when he said this, but it's a current conversation right now. I watched a recording of Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, that was done this week. And he said, humans, you have no idea how magnificent you are. You cannot even conceive of what is here for you. And that's what this is also saying, is that it's a very optimistic and very co-creative potential to be on the cutting edge of every aspect in a positive way.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Okay,
One last one, Victoria. We have Alexandra.
Alexandra.
Yes, hello, may I?
Yeah,
I just want to share that as I read this, I could feel within myself the expansiveness, the mind-boggling grandness of this idea. And I thought to myself, well, how do I move with that? How do I take a step in my life with this statement? And I heard Mr. Mills telling me, as he did one night at after dinner, he said, the one thing you have to remember, dear, is I am conscious awareness observing thought. That's it. So that to me is sort of an anchor from which I can now look at this humongous, beautiful, expansive idea. And as I allow that to work within myself, I then come back to, but in this moment, to take the next step, I can return to the knowing that my identity is conscious awareness, observing thought. And that will lead me forward.
thank you, Alexandra. Yeah, I think that's what these are. Dr. Mills used the word consider a lot, which I love because it's from the star. So it's not like think about it. I always say, why don't you, Victoria, why don't you just consider that you are an awareness program? That's what I am. And, you know, the rest is details. So I have a treat for us here now, because I have here Susan Kaplan. If you could unmute yourself, Susan. And Susan Kaplan is a member of the Earth Stage Actors. And the Earth Stage Actors were a theatrical ensemble that was dedicated to voicing the works of Kenneth Mills. And so what I'm saying here is those unfoldments that went on for an hour, that hopefully you'll hear more of, they memorized them and by heart, they knew it by heart. They lived them and they voiced them in many performances. So Susan's going to come on and tell us a little bit and also do a poem for us. Welcome, Susan.
Hello. Thanks so much for this opportunity. It's very much learned by heart. Even when it's not memorized, it's always known in the heart. The poem that I've brought to this moment is one that moves effortlessly from what these considerations have just been. It's called You and Me. It's found in an unfoldment called A Surprise, a Prophetic Utterance, that can be, for those who are interested, found in the Kenneth G. Mills Foundation library. And it's a consideration of the you and the me, the matter man of sense. And it moves to an exaltation of what I am, to the glory of the divine self. You and me all seem to be sitting in this room. The lights are fairly bright, the heat, something like a summer's noon. You and me may be gowned as such, but what's present is not found other than a tone, you say, appearing as words which flow unbound. Now you and me may ponder those and create a pool of quiet, or despair? Would you choose a path that divides me and you? Or do you realize that such a path is a dreamed up nightmare? It's far from rare. It's the common malady of those who think they can take from that which is a little bit of this today and of that tomorrow, and yet they too can sing. You cannot take one bit of light into a darkened room and have the room remain so dark that none of the dust or any of the attic brooms remain unseen. For in that light, you see the need of such to sweep out all the cobwebs that create you and me and give us back to dust. You and me are bound in years, but those years should reap reward. For you questioned me, and on the path I said, you and me only seem to be, for I am always and never was. You and me may appear to be garmented on this stage, but the light allows each to enact what will become an inner rage. It's the rage to be in fashion with what is real and true, sublime. It's the rage, the drama, the divine attraction that comes as a new force wheels you out of time. Love is now named the victor. Vision is sublime. For the you and me, the visionary, have been swallowed up as we walk the star trail beyond the mind. And on that mantle of sparkling glory, may you keep a smile upon your face, just in case an ET wonders what drama you played on what stage ere a script is traced. You and me may wish for marvels, but now you know they do abound, for you and me appear to be here, solidly present, while the song I am is a mystery, winged, bound yet unbound. Such is the mystery of the liberated selfhood. And the surface self says, ah, my God, a great nature for a great actor, for the great drama is the act of now. You are part of that cast. You are cast away from the shores of materiality and must adopt the courage that goes with a voyage of discovery beyond this world of imagined splendor and enter into the unbridled, unlimited wealth of a grand cosmic consideration and dispensation. You can never experience the infinite until you claim that is all there is. Thank you.
Beautiful, Susan.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So moving on, there's such a richness of content from the teachings of Kenneth George Mills that we'd have to have many hours. We would like to, Ellen and Ron and I would like to share a little bit favorite quotes of ours and see and what they have done to us. I say Dr. Mills ruined me. He just ruined me because I couldn't be in process anymore. It's very annoying, you know, very annoying when everybody's doing things to try to become better and you're like, I can't do that to become better. It's tough, although you have to practice, you know, but it does not make perfect, as he said. So I think I'd like to bring Ron on again. Ron, so what is a quote of yours that you just totally love and have grown with?
Well, I'm going to give a quote which has had so much meaning for me. The quote itself, given by Dr. Mills, has been an unfoldment of meaning, teaching that hasn't stopped yet. But before I do that, I want to read a section of an unfoldment, very short, Victoria. I don't want to panic anybody. That is one of my very great favorites and is very much related to what Susan just gave. It's from an unfoldment called The Quickening Spirit of Radiance. And I love this so much, I just have to read it before I give you my real quote. Yours is such an experience because you have adopted the disguise of being human. You have adopted the formulations which go with the demands of those incarnate. You have adopted the time-space scenario with all its limitations, with all its struggles, and with all its chaos for the sake of enhancing the quickening spirit of radiance. So the quote, and I could go on forever on this one because it never stops giving. The quote is, "You are the tastiness to the dish." And of course, it has so many levels to it. On one level, even on one level, it is a bit of a shock because it reminds us that the wonderful dish placed before us to be eaten, that the tastiness of that dish does not lie in the dish itself. It lies within us. That in itself is a mystery which should propel us forward. On another level, we consider the fact that we just heard that awareness is a program. This thing that we call a dish in front of us is within our awareness. Our program as awareness has the ability to take in that dish within its field of engagement and enjoy it. And yet, it really is within us. It is completely within our awareness that that dish exists. The awareness is primary. And the next level really asks a thundering question. And that question is it possible that I am the creator of this dish? If it is within my awareness, is it possible that my awareness itself is a creator of this dish? And that the entire substance of the dish is my awareness. So I wanted to share that with you because it goes on and on and on to what I'm now very much in love with, which is quantum physics, which so supports and resonates with the teaching of Dr. Mills, that it is, the word mind-blowing was used earlier. It is truly mind-blowing. So back to you, Victoria. I had to squeeze in that in 12.
That was, no, how could you not squeeze in the quickening spirit of radiance? So Ellen, would you come on now and tell us about a been a life journey for you?
Absolutely. I won't say how many years ago, but it was early when I first met Dr. Mills. He said, what you image with power and feeling will be your experience. And that started my curiosity going, and all of a sudden I had, the feeling of responsibility came with that. And okay, so watch what you're imaging. and then a little bit later on, he spoke about many, many times, well, you've seen what your imagination has done to you. Now see what your redeemed imagination can do for you. So those two statements have been a lifeline, for me throughout my life in terms of taking responsibility, but also taking initiative to see, well, what could be happening. I never would have taken up a video camera, much less learned how to make books or do any of these new things, as I'm sure many of you know. Like you have to just see yourself in a different way, and you have to imagine something more. And so I it's a continuous journey, and imagining myself as conscious being primarily, and secondarily a person, is pretty much the ultimate use of the imagination, I would say, and it's most difficult in the three-dimensional world, for sure, but it does work. I can attest to the fact that the imagination is a very, very powerful tool, and it's important to use it wisely.
Amen, Ellen. Amen. And that wonderful statement, you are not a man of a nation. No, you're not. Your conscious experience primarily, and only secondarily, a person with a nationality. You are conscious experience primarily. So where I took it was, you're not a mother of family. No, you're not. You're a conscious experience primarily, and only secondarily, a mother, grandmother of a family. You are not a potter that makes pots. No, you're not. You are conscious experience primarily, and secondarily, a person who is expressing themselves in pottery. And it just goes on and on, on and on. And with my granddaughter especially, I'd say you're not a grandmother. She, especially when she was a teenager, you're not a grandmother primarily. Your conscious experience, and only secondarily, you play the role of a grandmother. And I know these things, people say, how is this practical? I say, try it and see. Try it on, because it's just something that infiltrates, that embodies and just moves around and just shifts and alters, and something new is able to be there, something different, a different kind of look at that granddaughter, which is very needed and very real. Okay, so we are going to go on to listen to a little bit of Kenneth Mills' ensemble, the a cappella choral ensemble. And Ellen, if you could just tell us a little bit about how this started, and perhaps we can share a recording.
Absolutely, had to unmute myself again. The StarScape Singers were founded by Dr. Mills in 1977, I believe it was 77, because when we first met him, my brother and my sister and myself, we were singing in a pop group called The Free Design. And we had recorded 6 or 7 albums and had come to a plateau in our musical capability. And, and we knew that, we had all kinds of, people saying, this is great, but we all knew there was much more. And so we asked Dr. Mills to help us one day. And that day forward, it just never, ever stopped becoming more magnificent in every aspect of music that a musician could dream possible. And when the StarScape Singers eventually began to tour and went to Europe, there were music critics there that said, this is music of the 23rd century. And the piece we're playing for you is a rather simple one, because I could have said, yes, let's listen to the Fire Mass, that's like the ultimate accomplishment. But this is a small one called May I Be. And you can kind of get a feel for the harmonies and just the intricate use of the voices. And yet it all comes together because the 10 or 12 voices are really just Dr. Mill's fingers. I mean, you can't see it in this video so much, but when he's conducting, each finger was for a different voice. And when there was, like the sopranos would come up or the basses down or the altos up, it was fascinating to be on our side of the line, and the audience couldn't see that too much. So I'm just giving you a little secret here. But again, there's just so much that can be said about the music, but I encourage you to look on YouTube, and you can listen to many, many beautiful pieces. And right now, we'll play May I Be, and I think Susan's going to read the poem. This is one of Dr. Mill's poems that was set to music by Sharon McLean and my brother, Chris Dedrick.
I am now unmuted. Thank you. This poem was given at the end of an unfoldment, and Dr. Mills led into the song poem with words of gratitude. He said, with a heart that is filled with overflowing for the wonders that have been enacted on this plane, in order that we may see ourselves face to face, I am forever grateful. May I be in the light of love what I am as love. May I be in the light of love what a friend is when one is one. May I be in the light of love what a guide is when the place is found. And may I be in the light of love what I am as I am one. I am one in the love of the Father. I am one in the heart that is divine. I am one in the joy of being. I am one in the truth sublime. I am one in the spirit eternal. I am one in the infinite's might. I am one in knowing one is glorious. And in that oneness, I am one, and there is no fight.
Okay, everyone. Oh boy. Yes. I'm waiting to stop vibrating. One of my first encounters with Kenneth Mills was when I went to a rehearsal. They were having, somebody invited me to a rehearsal of the StarScape Singers. And I went, it was in a church. And I went there and I was sitting in the pews. And this woman got up to sing that he was going to conduct. And she was a beautiful Black woman. And she got up and the music started to Nobody Knows the Troubles I've Seen, Nobody Knows My Sorrows. And I remember in my mind went, oh my God, this Black woman is not going to sing that song. I was like, this cannot be happening. Oh God, you know, what is this? And she starts singing and boomed out, nobody knows the wonders I've seen. Nobody knows my gladness. And I remember sitting there and speak a transmission without, I just went, this place has the answer. There's an answer here that I need to know, and there's an answer. That's what I felt after that. I mean, that was my whole thing with that. And so I really, there's so much in the music was spectacular beyond belief, and very, very acknowledged all over the world. And it really has an ability to change, to listen to it. It's not easy listening music. It is not going to, it might make us calm. Some beautiful pieces, but it's music of awakening. That's how I feel. For me, that's what it is. It's something that brings a peace that is not a piece of trying to fall asleep at night with my app. It's not what it is. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk about art. Now, the painting behind me, that's one of the paintings that Dr. Mills painted, and he started painting at an elderly age. I don't know the facts, and he painted hundreds of paintings, spontaneous. Those poems that you heard in the music, the unfoldments that you heard, everything was spontaneously given. Nobody sat down and worked on it, although the discipline was amazing. So we wanted to talk a little bit, Ron and I wanted to talk about how that has affected our lives so much, the spontaneity. And so Ron, why don't you come in and talk a little about the poetry, how that absolutely influenced your poetry.
Yes, thank you. I'm still vibrating, so you'll have to forgive me. The poetry started about 12 years ago. It was an extraordinary happening. It was as if a dam burst, and there was a cascade of beauty, truth, insight in poetic form, which I am not familiar with very much. It just happened. And the fact that it happened and could happen was so much a result of Dr. Mills and his witnessing and urging the creativity that was not only in all of us, that was all of us, as essential to a statement that we make in this lifetime. And so the poetry came, and much of it was a mystery, is a mystery really, because I'm not sure where it's coming from, and I'm not sure what I am when it is flowing. I can't fix an identity in my partnership with an invisible mystery. But what fascinated me was the process itself. And so I decided I had to call the source something, with all humility and admitting that I had no words for the source. I called it the muse. I called it a muse. And it helped my imagination to visualize this glorious, incredible angel, which somehow was my partner in these creations. And that was lovely. There were so many features of my process, my relationship with this muse. It seemed that this process had certain demands. It was not something which could be ignored. If something came through spontaneously, you had to write it down because it was evanescent. It didn't stick around very long. And so that was one lesson I learned. Many others in terms of this relationship to the muse. But the freedom, the opening to create was so inspired by Dr. Mills witnessing creation on every level. And so the poetry goes on. And I have to behave myself. It seems to know a great deal about where I am in relationship to this loving meeting, this tryst between us. The essence of our work together, if I may use that word, that description, is light and love and its expression. And I have to thank Dr. Mills for allowing me to allow what I am express itself in that way.
Thank you, Ron. And I tell people that I'm living with Hafiz. And the spontaneous quality of the entire energetic happening around Kenneth Mills was just riveting to me. There was just something about it that just set my heart on fire. And for example, I mean, it was all the time, everywhere. But for example, we were visiting with him in Arizona at his center in Arizona, beautiful, beautiful center in Arizona. And we were actually sitting in a garden, and he heard that the group in New York that we were part of, that Ron and I were saying that the meetings there were as good as they could be, because we came from a teaching where the meetings were an incredible structure, and that we are now actually writing a book on. And so we sat down with him and he said, I hear you think the meetings are not that effective. And we said no. And he said, well, what do you think could be better? And I think Ron and I spoke for like 3 minutes. We said, well, there's a structure we could have and how they go, and people could have a conversation using some rules. That was pretty much. And then he said, well, how would you begin it? how would you begin this with the group? And we said, well, maybe we take some people in the New York group and, you know, teach them a little bit about it, have them learn it. And he said, who would you pick? So we named 4 people. And he said, oh, that's good. And then he said, and then what would you do? I said, well, if they got a little training, maybe we could do a series of meetings to see how they went. And he said, oh, okay. And then he called in Ellen. He said, Ellen, come in here. Come here, Ellen. And he said, Ellen, get your paper. He said, listen, Victoria and Ron are going to give meetings to everybody. There's 200 people. There was a group in Canada, a group in Arizona. I mean, a group in Turks and Caicos. So he said, we're going to have these meetings with Victoria and Ron. So schedule everybody. They're going to get together with these people and have 3 meetings. And then they're going to schedule everybody to go down to Connecticut or come up, and they'll come up here and we'll start these meetings. Then he just said, well, let's go have lunch. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that was so shocking to me. I mean, who does that? Who does that in an organization? Everything was like immediate, just like that. The painting seemed like to materialize. It's as if he took one corner and peeled it back and the paintings happened. And so everything in my life, spirit doodling, you know, that I had been doing came under a new viewpoint. I was like, oh my God, this isn't just something you throw out. This is something that's happening spontaneously. And just also, one time I was at a dinner with him and somebody said that I had memorized one of his poems, because people like to do that. And so he turned to me and he said, oh, Victoria, let me hear it. And I went, oh, I don't know, you know, I don't really know it. That was the last time I did that. He just went, do it. And I stood up and I did that poem. And I swear that has just changed. I just, whenever I hear that whole field come up for me now, like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know, you know, and somebody's asking me to do something. I say, fine, yes. You know, and Rumi says, say yes quickly if you've known it from before the beginning of the universe. So what I'm saying is the spontaneous quality of the creativity and the music combined with the discipline, actually. But as he would say, practice does not make perfect. It allows perfection to be revealed. That is so beautiful. Ellen, did you want to say something about that? Because I know you love that.
Well, I couldn't agree more about the how exciting that is, the just do it. And I say that to myself all the time now. Just do it. But I know we're running a little bit short on time. So do you want to continue on? And
yeah, let's kind of begin to tie things up and share a beautiful video, The Feeling of Being. Oops.
Feeling the being. Feeling the being I am, and appearing a mortal and a human. How can I feel the being divine and appear to trace a pattern in mind? How can I be a mortal of time and appear to be a morsel divine? How can I appear? 'Tis apparent, no doubt, that the plea of the heart gave a man about. Then in the being, man comes to see that with the consciousness of being and being conscious, I be. And you, O mortals, wearing an awareness gown, come to see how the child is found in the manger of simplicity, crying for the Father, Mother, God about. how am I seen? How am I viewed? I am the child of awareness, no doubt. Someone teach me from the side of the creche where I am rocked in the berceuse of knowing love is addressed. And love, hearing the melody of the crying of the lamb, says to the one who appears mortal and yet claiming I am. Come and teach in the light of this one what it is to be found in the arms of the sun. The one, growing stronger in the waxing of light, knows the waning of the impression of being immortal to sight. And then, in the grandeur appearing to be, there is the action appropriate for the one to see, and seeing the power of the consciousness divine, one wakes up in the knowing that you cannot be rocked in the cradle of the mind. Oh, to see is the cry of men wrapped in the garment of mortality and its trends. But thank God for awareness. The me seems incomplete, and the awareness, there's more to me than meets the thinking me and the pining one. And me springs to life in the waxing sun, and then, in the glare of a brilliance divine, I see a constant, no waxing or waning. It's the consciousness divine. So the me of glory finds the me of hide, and here and there, wherever a song abides, for on the wings of song and on the aspirations of love, man finds the song dips on the inspiration of love. Oh, to be immortal now that eternality is found, is to bear a hope for the age, for you know what it is to be human. Being human. Human being, being human. Human being, being human. Human being, freed. Unbound.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. And before I thank Bob and Noel and send this back to you, I just want to introduce, where's Greg? Is Greg Sardall still here?
Greg had to jump off. He had another meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to introduce you to the president of the Kenneth G. Mills Foundation, Greg Sardall. And just to tell you all that if you want to know more, every Sunday there's an Unfoldments called The Gathering Place. And actually we have Katrine from the board of directors here. Katrine, would you like to tell them about The Gathering Place and the Unfoldments on Sunday?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yes, every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, we are happy to share an unfoldment given by Dr. Mills. And we do it on Zoom. And it's normally from about 11 till 12:30. You're most welcome. And if you'd like to participate, send us an email at info@kennethgmillsfoundation.org. And we'll send you the link to the email. We'll send you the link to the Zoom link to the event. And just perhaps leave a note or add a note letting us know who you are and that you've heard of us from this extraordinary program that was.
Also, the website is www.kgmfoundation.org. And on the website, you will find a library that has lectures and meetings and rehearsals and recordings of the music, concerts, and it even has a 30-day free trial. So that's an incredible resource. And if you love quotes and love to do quotes, you just hit the quote mecca of the world. So that would be a great place if you want to see anything else, or if you want to contact Ron and I at info@vistarfoundation.org if you want to know any more and talk about Dr. Mills and the message, because the message is what is the important thing here, what it's telling us. So I'd like to give it back to Noel and Bob. I want to thank Noel and Bob for letting us do this, for having us on here. They're just so amazing. They're the sweetest, they're the nicest people. You can't imagine what they do. They're super activists. They do so much in this world. Their whole life is dedicated, life partners, to helping the shift in consciousness and helping in so many areas. I couldn't even list them all. So I wanted to thank them. I want to thank Ellen for putting together all this material that she has. She's an unbelievable resource, a treasure. She's a treasure.
Thank you, Bob and Noel. Thank you so much. I mean, you have
You're
been a
welcome, Ron, Victoria. You know what this has been like? This has been like nothing that has ever happened before.
No thing.
Thank you, Ellen, so much. A lifelong friend.
Thank you,
on this journey, on this incredible journey of meaning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob and Noel.
Thank you to all of you KGM people who showed up. What an honor, really an honor. I wish we could have heard all of you speak. I wish we could have gone on in that quote conversation for hours, really.
Mhm. And Victoria, did you want to mention the latest book of Dr. Mills?
Oh, good idea, Ellen. There's so much.
I know it's just the latest, or maybe it's not the latest. I mean, it's so prolific.
It is. It's the latest now.
Oh, it's up. It's inside out.
Cataract of Light.
Cataract of Light. Soliloquies on Conscious Being.
Wow.
It's on the website.
It's on the website, and there was another one, Out of the Blue.
Yeah. And they're available on Amazon as well.
Wonderful. Well, you know, you're thanking us, but listen, I just want to bow and bow to you too. You know, Bob, when we grow up, could we be like Ron and Victoria?
I hope we can. Yes.
There we go, Out of the Blue. That's a wonderful book too. I mean, this has been such a beautiful, beautiful evening. Yeah, I just treasure your introduction to Dr. Mills and your community. And you brought a lot of your community to the Upconvergence, the Unity and Peace Week that we did. And we had the most beautiful co-creations of music and art. And, you know, I just love it. But this has been such precious time.
Join us next week when our co-creators Convergence conversationalist will be Karen Trujillo Heffernan, and we're going to discuss together family food traditions and their effect on our personal, our family, and our global communities. April 29th. See you then.